Hello, and welcome to Fearfull Wickedness. We hope you enjoy tonight's tale.
It was move-in day at Halcyon Ridge University. The sun was high, the air crisp, and the campus buzzed with excited chatter. New faces, new beginnings, everything seemed perfect for 18-year-old Sarah. She was the kind of girl who believed in new beginnings, a fresh start away from the small town she grew up in. Sarah was eager to begin her college journey. She had made it through high school with straight A's and dreams of becoming a journalist. The thought of freedom, of making her own decisions, was intoxicating. She pulled her suitcase along the cracked sidewalk toward the towering brick dorm, excited to meet her roommate and settle into her new life. The building loomed ahead, its windows darkened like vacant eyes. The kind of place that looked like it had secrets. She entered the lobby, greeted by a perky RA with a clipboard. "Welcome to dorm 204, the RA chirped, handing Sarah a key. "I believe your roommate is already here." "Thanks," Sarah said with a smile, feeling her stomach twist with nervousness. The elevator groaned as it carried her up, the sound echoing off the walls. The doors opened with a clink, and Sarah stepped onto the second floor. She hesitated before she approached room 204. Before she knocked, the door opened. Standing in the doorway was a girl around Sarah's age, but with a look in her eyes that unsettled her. Her long, dark hair hung in loose waves around her shoulders. She was wearing a black hoodie and a pair of jeans that looked like they'd been worn 1,000 times. Her face was pale, almost too pale, like she hadn't seen the sun in ages. And her smile? It was a little too wide, a little too forced. "Hi, I'm Emily," she said, her voice low, almost hypnotic. "Come in. I've been waiting for you." Sarah blinked and stepped into the room. "Hello, I'm Sarah." It wasn't that Emily seemed dangerous, but there was something about her that made the hairs on the back of Sarah's neck stand up. She couldn't place it, but the feeling gnawed at her. The room was small but cozy. 2 beds, 2 desks, and a single window that overlooked the courtyard. On Emily's side of the room, there were odd posters of old horror movies, ones that Sarah recognized but had never paid much attention to. The walls were covered with slasher film memorabilia, old movie knives, and strange drawings. It was like a shrine to death, but there was no mistaking it. Emily was clearly into something darker than most people. This is nice," Sarah said, trying to make small talk. She set her suitcase on the bed nearest the window and began unpacking her clothes. "Yeah, it's okay," Emily replied, sitting on her bed. Her eyes never left Sarah, tracking every movement. "I've been here a while. This is actually my 2nd year at Halcyon Ridge." "Cool," Sarah replied, still trying to make conversation, but the air felt thick, as if something was just waiting to snap. "So not to freak you out on your first day, but have you heard the stories?" Emily asked. Her voice was barely above a whisper, but Sarah could hear the edge to it. "About the dorm?" Sarah turned and raised an eyebrow. "What stories?" "Some say it's haunted. Others say it's cursed," Emily continued, her lips curling into a small grin. "You know, things that happen to girls who move in here. Things they don't talk about." Sarah froze, her hand gripping the zipper of her suitcase a little too tight. "What kind of things?" "Oh, you know," Emily shrugged, her expression going from unsettlingly calm to something almost menacing. "Disappearing girls. Weird noises at night. They say one girl even found a body buried in the basement. Okay, that's a lot, Sarah stammered, feeling the weight of Emily's eyes on her. Are you serious? You're not messing with me, right? Emily smiled again. I never mess with people. Not when they don't know the rules. The air seemed to shift. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as she turned back to her unpacking, trying to ignore the uneasy feeling crawling up her spine. She needed to get used to living with someone, but this felt off. Later that night, as Sarah lay in bed staring at the ceiling, she heard it. A soft scraping sound, like fingernails dragging across the floor. It was coming from the hallway, just outside the door. Her pulse quickened, and she sat up, her eyes darting toward Emily's bed. Emily, who was lying there, eerily still, staring at the door, looked over at Sarah. You hear that? Sarah whispered. Emily didn't move. It's him. Him? Sarah's voice cracked. The killer, Emily said. Her voice seemed surprisingly calm. The one who's been haunting this dorm for years. They never caught him. They never found out who he was. But he's still here, still watching. Suddenly, the door burst open. The two girls jumped out of bed. But nothing was there. No one in the doorway, no one in the hall. Even the noise Sarah heard was gone. What the hell is going on? Asked Sarah. Is this some kind of practical joke? Did you set this whole thing up, Emily? Emily didn't respond at first. She appeared to be just as scared as Sarah. You think I did this? How would that even be possible? You said this is your second year, so you and some of the other girls came up with a plan to prank the gullible new freshman. No, Sarah, but Sarah cut her off. Look, I'm tired and I'm going back to bed. Sarah walked over, closed and locked the door and went back to bed. The next day, everything went as anyone would expect. Sarah and Emily didn't see each other until that evening back in their room. They didn't speak, though you could tell they were both shaken from the previous night. As the girls lay down, Emily finally broke the silence. Okay, Sarah, I'm sorry. I'll tell you what happened last night. The story goes that a freshman girl who was trying to fit in lured a guy over to her dorm so that her and the other girls could play a prank on him. Sarah lay with her back to Emily, still not saying a word. It didn't go well, and the guy ended up falling from the second-story window and dying. But the guy and his family were into all kinds of black magic and spells and stuff, so he didn't really die. He was brought back, and in order for him to sustain his life, he must eat the soul of a girl from the same dorm each year. It's just a stupid prank that the girls pull on an unsuspecting freshman. I was the one last year. I'm sorry. Sarah turned to face Emily and said, to be honest, I thought we could be friends. I thought it could be different this time. What do you mean by different this time? Asked Emily. 6 years ago I was 12, and my sister was 16 when our brother was killed by those girls. We swore to help him make them pay. This year is my turn to start leading him to new girls. I thought after meeting you, I would pick out a girl down the hall, thinking maybe you were different. You weren't like those others. But now I see. You're like all the rest. Emily couldn't believe what she was hearing. Sarah has lost her mind, she thought. Just then, Emily heard the sound from last night. The sound of fingernails scraping across the floor. So I guess all that's left to say is, enjoy your meal, brother. About that time the door burst open. A young decomposing man stood in the doorway with his jaw dislocated and elongated. Emily jumped up. sheer terror in her eyes, and was never seen or heard from again.